Hello, everybody. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Lidia Viamifta Pradani. My student number is 77, and in today's video, I will try to analyze a poem from Robert Frost. So, let's go. Analysis of Stopping by Wood on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose wood there are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his wood fill up with snow. My little heart must think it queer. It stopped without a farmhouse near, between the wood and frozen lake, the darkness evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and drowny lake. The woods are lovely dark and deep, but I have promised to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And then dominant element on this poetry is there are sound device, figurative language, and mood and tone. Sound device, there are alliteration. From the stanza 1 is there are H sound, whose, his, horse, he, here, his, and then which sound like wood, will, watch, and wood. Sound is sea, stopping, and snow. Stanza 2, there are sound, my and must. There are all sounds is little and lake. There are h sound is horse and farmhouse. There are hoof sound is farmhouse and frozen. There are h sounds is he, has, and harness. There are s sounds, asked, some mistakes, sounds, and sweep. And from stanza 4, there are t sound. There are dark and deep. And there are figurative language. There are imagery, metaphor, and personification. Imagery, there are as a wood, house, and lake. From metaphor, there are sweep on easy wind and down his flake, and miles to go before I sleep. There are personification. He gives his harness bells a shake, and to ask if there is some mistake. Mood and tone. Mood and tone, we can analyze this from the only other sound, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely dark and deep. Meaning, function, and reason. Like much of the Frozen work, this is a poem about the contemplation about nature and man's relation to nature. The poem describes a man talking his way home a snowy evening to stop watch a neighbor's wood fill with the snow, despite the cold and the late hours. Alliteration is the repetition of the same consonant sound in the same line, and the writer used many word alliteration in this poem to give a cheery sound like rhythm and to contrast with themes and make us more deeply. Imagery is used to make readers feel things through their faith scenes. The poet has used the imaging for the sense of sight. This imaging helps reader to see the wood a source of solace and comfort to a lonely traveler. Metaphor describe a one thing as if it were another. Metaphor as a blissful sleep, an idyllic nature perfectly represent the seductive draw of relaxation against stress and overwork. The timeless beauty of the words contrasts with the pressing demand of responsibility. The horse is metaphor for work, promises, as is the connotations of a labor task, logic, and domestication into the human society. The conflict can be praised as a sleep and promise, progression and reflection, man and nature, business and pleasure, movement and stopping, society or solitude. Some people find an underlying conflict in the poem too, like life and death. Sonification gives human characteristics to something not human. Robert Frost has personified the thinking of the horse merely in the second stanza when it stops, and in the third stanza he gives a sign to the rider. He gives his harness bells a shake or asks if there is some mistake. It shows as if the horse is a human being who understands his owner's need to or inquire if they have to stop. Mood and tone. There is much debate about the general tone of this poem where the speaker stops on his way to enjoy beauty of the snow-covered forest in the dark and calm evening, while most of the readers agree that the general tone of the stopping by wood and snowy evening is calm, serene, quiet, and contemplative. Others argue that this is drug and desperation. The writer used mood and tone to give a deep impression in the poem. Thank you. I think enough about my explanation on this poem. Sorry about my mistake and see ya.